Welcome to a new episode with ideas and insights. Find the strategies, tactics, and tools for your success in your initiative, project, and campaign. You are listening to the IdeaCast with your host, Tom Wittig. Welcome back to another episode of the IdeaCast. Today we want to talk about Pinterest again. So this is another episode in this mini-series about Pinterest marketing and Pinterest for business. The topic today is very simply, who is on Pinterest? Well, as I said in the previous episode, people who are on Pinterest in general are looking for inspiration. And when you take a look at the Pinterest for Business website, what you find is some really interesting numbers. For example, 77% of the Pinterest users stated that they found a new brand or product on this platform. That's quite amazing. So this is a huge opportunity to get discovered, especially if you are looking for entering a new market, a new segment with a new product. I think this is a great statistic. Another one that is stated there is that over 80% of people are interested in branded content. Now, this is something I found really surprising. And the reason is that on many of the other platforms, brands are often struggling to get their content across in terms of branded content or advertised content. But here on this platform, the members and the users of the platform are actively looking for such a content. So this is, I think, very special about Pinterest. And this number actually came from a market research study that Pinterest did back in 2018, I believe, with the market research company GfK. I think it was done in the US, but probably the results are fairly similar in other geographies. Now, a stunning statistic was that 98% said they tried something new they found on interest. So, in a nutshell, Pinterest is not only about inspiration, but discovery and taking action. So that's why I became a very big fan of Pinterest as a marketing platform, because here we are talking and engaging with an audience which is, let's say, very interested in things they can try out and very action-oriented. Now, when we take a look at the geographies, is what Pinterest tells us is there are about 300 million users right now. Probably this is an outdated statistic because they're growing very fast. And interesting fact here is that the strongest growth is actually coming from the international audience. So for us in our digital marketing agency practice, that's great news, because our customers in Europe, especially in the German-speaking market, will benefit from that quite a lot. And so the majority is coming from outside the United States. But the question is, what are let's say, the big countries, especially in Europe, when we talk about Europe as an interesting region? And here I learned about some statistics that I learned in a discussion with some experts. I believe it was on the Pinterest side. So, and last time I checked, there were about 15 million monthly users or monthly active users. I think that's probably a more correct way to state it, in the United Kingdom. Now, and when you take a look at the other countries in continental Europe, the first one, surprise, Germany with 12 million active users per month, France 10 million, Spain 11 million, Italy 6 million, and so on. Specifically for the German-speaking market, so there are 12 million in Germany, 1.2 million in Austria, and in Switzerland about 1.3 million. So quite interesting statistics. Now, when you go to the audience insights, Pinterest really does not tell us at this point in time the breakdown by country. I think this will come probably a little bit later. And before we go a little bit more into the details and what we see on the audience insights and statistics, I want to mention one thing as kind of a pro tip. You can actually drill down in many different categories and KPIs and segmentation when you're running an advertisement campaign. And I found that most people actually don't know that, but I will talk about that in one of the upcoming episodes, how to do this. This is actually quite an interesting, useful statistic when you want to drill really into detail and understand the data behind your campaigns and the uptake of the campaigns and so on. So let's switch over to the dashboard. So when you are running advertisements on Pinterest, typically what you have is a Pinterest for Business account, and there is an interesting section that talks about audience insights. And here you can see two things. One is your own audience, basically the visitors on your Pinterest real estate, on your presence in Pinterest. And also you can compare that to all the Pinterest users worldwide. As I mentioned before, this is not in a way that you can drill down, but it's quite interesting. So the first thing that you will see is there's a section about categories and interests. So categories includes things like health, food, drinks, gardening, education, cars, finance, and whatnot. And the interesting part in that table, you see an affinity score. Affinity basically means that how interested is the audience in this particular topic relative to all the others. So for example, you find that in terms of home decor, for example, the Pinterest audience is, the affinity score is 1.25, and there are about 38% of the audience, the worldwide audience on Pinterest, interested in home decor. So that's actually interesting because you can actually sort this table. So for example, you can say what are the categories with the highest affinity and what percentage of the Pinterest population does it represent. Or you go the other way around and say what are the most prevalent categories on Pinterest. So if I sort by that category or by that metric, then I find that, for example, entertainment accounts for 92%, home decor 83%, DIY and crafts 81%, art, women's fashion 55%, etc., etc. So it's very interesting because then you can start planning your campaigns more targeted, but it doesn't stop there. You can actually click on all of these categories and then it gives you a breakdown of subcategories. So for example, if I take a look at the, let's say, event planning, for example, here you can see that the most common interest is holiday planning, Christmas, personal celebration, etc. Now, think about this as, let's say, how can you tap into this audience and how can you present information that is not only useful but inspiring your target group, your audience, on an event-based schedule, for example. Going to some other categories in terms of the demographics, when you take a look at the age distribution, it's quite interesting because let's say, and I have to switch to all Pinterest users right now because your own account will probably vary from that. In our case, it does, for example. When you take a look at the age distribution, you find, let's say, the cohorts of, let's say, somewhere around 18 to 24 accounts for about 30% and so on. So, and then it's going down, and the age cohort, for example, of 45 and above, that accounts for roughly 22% or something like that. Now, if I compare that, the overall statistics with the current state of our account of Wittigonia Digital, for example, we have quite a different age distribution. Why? Because we are presenting content which is probably geared towards another cohort. So in our case, the cohort between 35 to 55 years of age is very prevalent right now. In terms of gender, we have a very high overlap to this audience, and for example, the female audience accounts for about 60 or almost 70% of the whole audience, and then the male audience is 24%. Interesting also device categories. I mentioned that in the blog post about the case study that we did. Here's something that you have to be aware of. Pinterest users are to a very large degree are using mobile devices. And in our case, when we ran some of the campaigns, it was very high. It was by a factor 8 to 10 times higher than all the other users. Even the tablet users on iPad or Android tablet actually were not so prevalent. For me, actually, that was quite a surprise, because I thought that given the more haptic nature of this platform, that people would use actually more tablet PCs. But that was actually not the case. Now, these are all statistics that you can get out of the audience insights. As I mentioned before, there's another dimension when you're running campaigns. You can drill down in some of these categories, keywords, age, gender, region, etc. So that's quite interesting. So I'll make that a topic for another short podcast. And another dimension is seasonality, because as people are looking for inspiration, this is also driven by seasonal events. And this again is another episode that is coming up, probably as the next episode. And there we will talk a little bit more about seasonality that we see and what are the interests by season. And I'll give you some examples of how it looks like right now in March 2020, which is quite an interesting moment, because we are still in the midst or the beginning of a worldwide pandemic. Now, if you found this useful, share the episode, leave a like or comment. And if you want to follow us on Pinterest, you'll find us on pinterest.com/Wittigonia Digital. Until then, I wish you good luck with your initiatives, campaigns, and projects. When you are looking for inspiration and help with your digital marketing and growth initiatives, please check out our digital marketing agency, WITTIGONIA Digital. We provide a range of support from strategy to implementation tactics and optimization of digital marketing campaigns. From managed services to workshops and compact learning modules, our work supports you and your team. Discover more at wittigonia.com. Thank you for listening. I hope you find this episode interesting and helpful. Please rate and share this episode with your team, colleagues, and friends. You can find links to more information in the show notes of this episode.